As part of celebrating Business Women's Day, we wanted to talk to someone who really means business. See what I did there? We're joined now by Mary Hendrie, co-founder of one of the world's leading esports infrastructure businesses, yoga therapy instructor, published author, retired roller derby champion, and presenter of the Women Are Cool and Interesting podcast. Mary, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Oh, it's so good to have you here.
Well, I sound a lot more impressive when you introduce me than when I do, so thanks for that.
Tell us in your own words, what is it that you're working on?
Everything, saving the world, but also maybe just getting insurance for my employees and a lot of day-to-day stuff. My life is super duper full, and all of the stuff you said there more or less covered it. I am really passionate about the growth of our company right now. My husband and I founded it together, and I'm really pumped about where we're going with it. And at the same time, still managing to do my own creative projects and still managing to pursue yoga therapy. My plate is almost too full, but I really like it that way.
I really loved reading your books. When did you publish them? They came out quite a while ago, right?
Yeah, I don't remember the year exactly. Probably like 2010 or 11, now that I think of it. But thank you for saying that. I haven't thought about them really in a long time because I really felt a need to publish those at the time. And once it was done, I had a lot of like complicated feelings about it and feeling like, oh, this wasn't really that good. So I kind of put them out of my mind for a long time. I appreciate that they had value to somebody.
Tell us a little bit about what they were and if there are any more coming.
Yeah, so the first one that I actually put out into the world was Dirty Water Coffee, which is essentially, it was my grad school thesis. I went to Goucher College for a master's in fine arts for creative nonfiction writing, and my idea was to write about personal mythology. Joan Didion said, "We tell ourselves stories in order to live." And I thought that was a really interesting way into. I've always really loved mythology, and I used to feel like, oh, we don't have a mythology anymore, at least not one that we really talk about in any kind of cohesive way. There's this idea of like the American dream over here, but that is, whew, that one is a sinking ship. So, um, I wanted to talk about personal mythology anyway, so I sort of like wrote about my family in the sort of mythologized terms that we use to get a handle on our lives. It's a very esoteric topic to try and sort of boil down, though. So what I did was I just wrote a bunch of essays about my life growing up in Louisiana and about kind of the stories of my family, which I used to use to define who I was as a person, and kind of examining myself through that lens. And it's pretty funny that you bring those books up now because I think that part of writing that for me was like a way of coming to terms with and beginning the process of letting go of that definition of me and saying, this is the story I was handed. This is who I was told that I am. And now that I've written that down and kind of put it to bed, now I'm going to move forward and then go be whoever it turns out I actually am.
Are we going to get to read anything about you now?
I don't know. I have very recently started to return to blogging alongside the podcast. I'm not really interested in just writing about myself so much anymore, but I am interested in my experiences and the experiences of the other people around me. So I do occasionally blog at missdirt.net about just whatever's on my mind at the moment. And I'm still toying with the idea of writing about roller derby, but if I were to do it, I want it to be done in a really particular way.
You've mentioned roller derby, and I am saying roller derby as an English person rather than roller derby. It's not really something that's very well known over here. What is the thing with roller derby?
That's a great question. What is the thing with roller derby? That is such a broad question. What is the thing with roller derby? I don't know. I wanted to do it. It looked like fun. I went to a game years ago when I first moved to the Baltimore area, and I saw these women on skates. Just they were so fierce, man. They were so strong and scary, but it looked like a lot of fun. And I just like one day I'm gonna be brave enough to do that. And I did not think I could ever do it. I was totally scared and I thought that's for other people. If you think you're not tough enough for it, no, you're not tough enough for it, but you'll get there.
Wow. I have to confess, I'm not even sure I knew what roller derby was.
It took me a while of watching it, and actually, it's only thanks to Mary that I really know. I've been to see a couple of your games, Mary, and it was only through actually sitting there with Wikipedia on my phone and watching the game that I was able to really work out what was going on. But it is really cool.
It is. It's really cool and it's really fun. And I mean, it is played on old-fashioned quad skates. I mean, I say old-fashioned. They're pretty fancy, high-tech special skates or whatever. But they're still those old-looking, played on a flat track.
My year 9 science teacher was a roller derby skater.
Well, there's the London Roller Girls are the biggest team over here, and they put a lot of great stuff out on their Facebook. So a shout out to the London Roller Girls.
Yeah, they're outstanding.
Anyone in the UK wants to check them out. And your team was
Charm City Roller Girls.
So you mentioned yoga therapy. How is that different to traditional yoga?
It's different and it's not different. So I don't know what it's like where you all live, but where I live, when you say you're going to yoga, what you mean is you're going to put on some stretchy pants and you're going to go into a hot room with a whole lot of strangers and you're going to do some poses and then you're going to leave and go think how great you are for that.
And then you're going to Instagram the experience, right?
And you're going to Instagram it, absolutely.
I mean, when I say I'm
it's the
going to
same here.
yoga, I mean I'm going for a pizza, but that's just my own personal code.
Right. So yoga can be used in all kinds of therapeutic applications. Some of them are more physical therapy, some of them are more directed towards mental and emotional. And so I'm on that second half, the mental and emotional. And what I practice is called Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy. And it's really geared toward helping people to have an embodied experience of themselves. And so I've heard people say it's like if you had talk therapy and got some body work or energy work at the same time. Really, what happens is when you keep people engaged with their body, they manage to stay plugged into the present moment. Whereas a lot of times, if you have depression or anxiety or trauma or any of those things that people seek therapy for, you start to get into your own mind and think and explain. And, well, I think the problem is this. And in a yoga therapy session, my experience is that I'm focused on the present moment and how I feel, and I can deal with what's happening now instead of trying to solve something that happened 20 years ago. That's a very empowering place to be where you can kind of see yourself as like, I'm okay as I am now. I've made it this far. I don't need to rewind and undo the past. I can learn how to deal with who I am and what I'm doing right now. So we use supported postures. I use a lot of props, and I may have somebody like lay down on the floor and like I'll pull on their leg to kind of stretch them and create a sensation. And it's really pretty incredible work. It's hard to explain exactly what a session looks like. But if we're ever in the same, country, I'd be happy to give you a session so you can see.
I think I'd like that. I was actually watching something on TV the other night and somebody was using yoga before bed as a way of helping sleep better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff that you can do with yoga where, for example, back bends are considered to be more energizing, largely because they open up your ability to breathe and you take in more oxygen and that kind of wakes you up. Forward bends are predictably more calming.
So, as we mentioned at the beginning, you host the Women Are Cool and Interesting podcast, which is in itself both cool and interesting. Who have you had on so far?
It's been a little bit of a whirlwind. I didn't expect anybody to actually be interested in this podcast. I thought, oh, I'm just going to host, some of my friends. So the first person I interviewed was my best friend, Jananigans. Then I had another acquaintance who is a local artist. Her name is Lindsay DeFabio. And I've interviewed some really cool people, mostly just people that I'm acquainted with who I think are, like I said, just cool and interesting. Because for me, the whole point is just to say, like, you don't have to be a rock star to be cool and interesting. And there's so many different, unique, and exciting individuals who just need to be seen, in my opinion. Or rather, not that they need to be seen, but the world needs to see them. Another person I had on was an acquaintance who's a sex worker. She's an online dominatrix. She's somebody I know through a friend, and I was really curious about her and her work and everything. And we've known each other through these overlapping circles of friends for years, but we have not been close. And so it was really cool to have an opportunity to ask her my questions and learn about something that probably isn't in the cards for me to experience firsthand.
We'll have to share links of where people can download and subscribe to the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing everything through my personal website, missdirt.net at this moment. So, but I can give you more information about that and the yoga therapy business. So.
Do you have any plans for the podcast going forward? Any dream guests on your list?
What's really fun for me about this actually is branching out one person at a time. Believe it or not, I'm very much an introvert and not a natural at social interaction. I'm taking baby steps with it. Shortly after the 2016 election, I got added to kind of a political activist group by a friend, and it's a group of people from all over the country who really, want to keep steering us in the right direction despite other people's effort to the contrary. So this woman posted there recently about how she was running for office in her hometown. Anyway, the Bronx is her hometown. And I thought, wow, you're running for office in New York City and like trying to make some changes. So I messaged her, see if she'd be open to doing a podcast. And I may have that coming up. So this would be maybe my first time actually interviewing somebody completely outside of my social circle, which is kind of an exciting jump for me. But also, I'm really excited to hear about her story and how she ended up, wanting to pursue politics because that is scary, I think. I cannot imagine wanting a career in politics. I think it would kill me. Um, but she may be the kind of person who can really succeed with it. And I'd love to hear, I'm excited to hear from her and hopefully be able to talk with her on a really human level about it.
So, I mean, you've talked about the podcast, about yoga therapy. We've talked a bit about the books and the business that you're growing. So what inspires you? What gets you up in the morning?
That is a shockingly hard question for me to answer right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to answer that question.
I'd be able to answer what gets me up in the morning, but that's coffee and toast.
Right. For me, it's my cat. My cat is like, it is 5:45 a.m. I would say, like, to be totally honest, like in November when our current person was elected, felt like the world was ending. I felt like the most toxic boy who ever harassed me in school, the meanest version of any man I ever met, just got elected president. And it kind of shattered my worldview to a like much larger degree than I would like to admit. But as a result, I've basically been like, you know what, look, I'm not going to be one of those people who is silent and who waits for it to blow over. And so that really is kind of what inspires me day to day right now. And it's hard to walk that line. It's hard to balance like I don't want to carry around that kind of rage all the time. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to live in that headspace of I can't control the negativity in the world, therefore I'm going to let it control me. So truthfully, what gets me up and gets me working every day is the idea that like people like me need other people like me. And people who are scared need the others who are scared to be like, yeah, I'm scared too, but I'm still working on it. And so I just get up and work.
And that's
I try to do it with love.
really inspiring.
You mentioned before your cats. So your Instagram contains many pictures of your cats. Tell us a little bit about them, because cats make everything better.
They make everything better, and except for when they're waking me up. No, they're wonderful. Their names are Neko and Mao. We adopted Mao, well, I don't remember exactly what year, but anyway, we adopted him first, and a friend of ours jokingly suggested that we should name him Mao because it sounds like meow, and then there's that joke about Chairman Mao and whatever. So we named him that, and then another friend was like, "Hey, did you know that that actually means cat in Chinese?" They're like, "Oh, that's clever. That's cool." So then when we adopted our second cat, we decided to name him Neko because it means cat in Japanese, and why not have two cats named Cat? So they're my buddies. They're my partners. They take care of me. They make sure I get up in the morning even when I don't want to.
So, what advice do you have to anyone aspiring to be an awesome woman?
I really like this question because the answer is you're already awesome. You are awesome. You are. Like the fact that you exist at all is just statistically bananas. Like maybe just start your day from that place of like, wow, I exist. Isn't that crazy, right? If you're aspiring to be awesome, just go be. Just do you. Do what you love. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not awesome because that's a lie. Anybody who needs you to believe that you're not already awesome is benefiting from your lack of confidence. So, F that guy. You're awesome. Just do you.
Words to be awesome by.
Last but not least, we ask all of our guests on the show to pick the song that plays after their interview. What would you like us to play you?
When you told me I get to pick a song, I got really excited and picked like 30 or so songs.
I'm not sure we have time to play them all.
I'm going to recommend Tomboy by Princess Nokia. I think it's fantastic.
All right, we'll play that now. And I tell you what, we'll gather together all of those other songs and we'll tweet out the playlist so everyone can see your inspiring music picks.
Yay.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been amazing to have you on. And thank you for all of your inspiring, witty, and cat-related words.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me. This has been really fun.